we're just now going to go over the application for premises licence 15 The Parade, Margate, CT91EY, and I'd like to ask a member of the licensing authority to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. So an application has been made by Mark Hicks for a new premises licence at 15 The Parade, Margate. The operating schedule showing the proposed licensable activities and hours are appended in annex to the report that you'll have seen. In summary, it's to serve alcohol until between the hours of 10 a.m. and 1 a.m. and late night refreshment between 2300 and 1:30 a.m. Applicants for a premises licence are required as part of the licensing procedure to display a public notice which provides information regarding the manner in which an objection may be made. Similarly, public notice of the application should be published in a local newspaper circulating in the vicinity of the premises. These requirements appear to have been complied with. 2 representations have been received, both of which are appended in Annex 2. Both are objections regarding public nuisance. Environmental Health have agreed the following conditions with the applicant. The licensed area shall only include the internal parts of the premises. From midnight onwards, each operational night, alcohol for off-sale provision shall only be provided in a sealed container. All tables and chairs on any form of seating associated with the premises that are in place on the piazza shall be removed by 22:30 onwards. The Licence Subcommittee will be aware that it must carry out its functions under the 2003 Licensing Act to take steps which are appropriate for the promotion of licensing objectives. Those objectives are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. In carrying out the licensing functions, the subcommittee must also have regard to our statement of licensing policy and guidance issued under the Act. All license objectives are the matters of the license of which the licensing subcommittee must address when considering whether to grant or refuse this application. Each application should be considered on its merits, and reasons must be given for any decisions made by the subcommittee. Where premises licences are granted, mandatory conditions will apply under sections 19 to 21 of the Act. I therefore ask the subcommittee for their decision on this. You'll see that there are 3 options laid out in part 3 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Case on behalf of the applicant. The case on behalf of the applicant or licensee, including the calling of any witnesses. So questioning of the applicant or licensee and witnesses by responsible authorities and interested parties. Sorry, I mean, I'm not quite sure from this. Does the applicant now need to basically talk about their license, or does the
the licensing team are now able to ask questions of the applicant?
Okay, so if the licensing team would like to ask questions of the applicant now, that'd be great. Thank you.
I don't have any, thank you.
Okay.
So next, if members would like to ask any questions of the applicant.
That's great. Thank you, Charlotte. Yes. Is there any questions from members of the committee to the applicant? Councillor Rogers?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Neither me.
Okay. I'm just trying to ascertain which building this is. Is this Charlie's, or is it Milo, or is it Woody's?
So I can come in there. It's next to Woody's. It was what was Milo's.
Okay. Okay. So I'm addressing the applicant now, am I? Okay. So this is Milo's was a bar that was open during the day and open during the evening, and had a license, I think, probably till 1 o'clock. Can you confirm that, Penny? If it had a license, the previous situation?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, but does the applicant know the answers to the previous situation with the Milos that was there before? Can the applicant unmute microphone, please? Hicks? Is he still here?
Yeah, Mr. Hicks is still with us, but he just needs to unmute his microphone.
Yeah, it keeps on turning off for some reason or other. But yeah, I'm still here. Yes, it did operate until 1 o'clock license and had done for many years. It was only when it was changed use temporarily for under the space of a year, and it went to the rat race.
Okay. I mean, I remember Milo's bar and the you know, like the hours, etc. Vaguely. I mean, are you basically applying for the same conditions that Milo's are operating under?
Well, I've got Jerry. I don't know whether Jeremiah here, my solicitor, and he was going to conduct this meeting, but I don't know whether we missed his name called at the beginning because we were having technical difficulties. Do you have him listed? He's most certainly been dealing with the correspondence with licensing department on my behalf.
Okay, thank you. Charlotte, is that okay?
Yes, that should be okay. Yeah.
Okay. So sorry. So
Can I assist?
of course.
The license for Milo's had lapsed for one reason or another. Mr. Hicks owns Woody's next door, and he wanted to relicense what was Milo's to effectively the same hours, which are the same hours as he has at number 16 next door.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there were two ways of doing this. One would be a variation, but the general guidance and my understanding, I think shared by Jane Bennett, is you do not apply for a variation if you're going to increase the size of the premises by more than 1/3. The other alternative was to apply for a completely new license for the existing Woody's at number 16 and including number 15, but we thought it best to apply for a separate license for number 15, so it's a standalone license, although in practice the two will run together. We made the application on the same basis as that for number 16, including the piazza, but as a result of discussions with Mr. Brown, which I can come to later, we withdrew that part of the application relating to the piazza. So the license will cover the building only. I can deal with those aspects in a moment if required.
So are the two buildings going to be operating as one bar restaurant?
No, they will be operated separately, but it is the same management.
And do they have the same licensing hours?
Yes.
Okay.
The hours applied for are identical to the hours number 16.
Of the one next door. Okay, all right, that's great. Thank you very much for that.
Can I just explain about my engagement with Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown contacted me to say that he was concerned about the extension of the license onto the piazza. Now, if I can deal briefly with a bit of history, Thanet Council licenses the piazza to itself. Cafe G has a license on it, and I think Charlie's does. And in the days of Mr. Benstead, the licensing manager officer, everyone held a license over the whole thing, and they each had their little slice to operate on. It was a rather informal arrangement. That was
Sorry, can I interrupt for a second? Penny, did you want to comment on that?
This site isn't owned by TDC, and we don't license that site. So yeah, there may have been a historic arrangement, but we don't actually license that.
Well, at one time the council did for musical performances. But anyway, be that as it may, Mr. Brown's concern was that since the advent of the Live Music Act, it was no longer necessary to have a license for providing music between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. And so he was concerned that if we licensed the piazza, we could introduce live music onto the piazza under the Live Music Act, which he thought was undesirable. So we agreed to withdraw the part of our application relating to the piazza. So our license would not cover the piazza, and we have off sales. So in a word, we can use that part of the piazza that's already used 16 next door. So there'd be no use of it. So you can say,
okay. So you're freezing. Sorry, you're freezing.
Mr. Brown, satisfied.
Apologies. You're frozen.
Am I?
Yeah, are you back now?
Yes. Sorry, I'm in the hands of Mr. Hicks, who's operating the machinery, because I'm far too old to do all this now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have also observed the objectors.
I can't. Sorry, it's frozen again.
Can you?
Yeah, back again. It looks like you've got a bad internet connection there.
Yes, I'm afraid we're stuck with you. The first objector was quite short, and he was concerned about the piazza in the he's also concerned about the clock. My only comment would be that in relation of number 16 to the same hours, there's no complaint on that.
Hold on a second. I mean, like, I think we need to.
In general terms, there will be no problems with the police or environment over the conference. Whilst I understand the objection.
I'm sorry about this. Charlotte, can you basically let me know what the next part of this?
So
Can we rejoin?
moving on to the next sort of section of
Hello?
the evidence. Hello.
Guys,
If the applicant would like to ask the licensing team any questions.
is that right? Is that right? The applicant asks the license.
Yeah, so
Welcome to Google Meet. Enter the meeting pin followed by the pound key.
There'll be an option to present final presentations at the end of the meeting, but before then, if the applicant would like to ask the licensing team any questions, and then members any questions.
Okay, sorry. So would the applicant like to ask any questions of the licensing officer?
Well, ask questions of the licensing officer.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Thanks. Do you have any questions?
We have no questions of the licensing officer.
Okay.
Okay. So Alison, can you present the case, please?
Alison, who's?
If members could ask the licensing team any questions, if they have any.
This is all back to front.
I'm following this script, but it doesn't look like it's I'm not sure.
Well, I wonder if I could just finish what I was saying about.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Sorry, yeah. Hello.
Hello, Sam, can you
Sorry.
hear me?
Yes, we can, Mrs. Woods. Yeah.
You need to unmute.
Oh, hi.
Your microphone, Jessica.
No,
Yeah,
please
I've
don't do
only
that.
just got it working. I just wanted to double
Yeah.
check. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Mrs. Woods, sorry, everybody.
Can you hear me?
Yes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove you from the physical meeting. So please stay on your phone. But Mrs. Woods was having technical issues getting into the meeting. So what Mrs. Woods has done is dialed in via the telephone. So if members see the telephone symbol in the when it comes up, that is Mrs. Woods. Okay. So sorry about that, Chairman. So if we return to Mr. Dillon.
Yes.
Okay. So can we? So Mr. Dillon is basically asking questions of the licensing officer.
Well, we've covered that point, and we don't have any. But we were in the middle of explaining what we intend to do and our reaction to Mr. Brown's objection, which has been resolved. So I don't know whether you wish me to continue further with that. We seem to have got a bit out of order.
Well, if you'd like to continue, then.
Yes, thank you. The second objection, which is much more detailed on the form, objects, quite apart from the risk of noise up to 1 o'clock, to the sort of takeover of the piazza by premises around the piazza. I understand that objection was probably filed while our application included the use of the piazza, but that, of course, has now been withdrawn. So insofar as that objection has been overtaken by events, But as to the general point, the council agreed to license the piazza and for other premises to put tables and chairs. So that's not really part of our application. Whilst I understand the objectors' annoyance at this, that a public area seems to have been sort of sold off, if I can put it that way, that's no longer part of our application. And his objection or her objection is mainly directed towards noise up to 1 o'clock. Well, any noise there has been from premises other than this one. There's no record, as far as we're aware, of objections during the period when it was Milo's. And my view is that if a person is worried about noise, then of course, if there is noise, they can always apply for a review. So I hope that to that extent, I've dealt with the objections. I respect them. I've advised my client that they're quite bona fide and that he must take care to live peaceably with his neighbours. I don't think there's anything else that I can usefully say, apart from the fact that Mr. Brown's intervention has removed what might otherwise have been an area of controversy, and that we are quite content if the committee were minded to grant the licence, as it now is, the same hours as next door, but limited to the interior. And with the facility for off sales, with the restrictions of sealed vessels after 22:30 and ceasing at midnight.
Okay.
So that's all I have to say, but I'm very happy to answer questions, or for Mr. Hicks to answer questions in person of anybody, objectors, committee or officers. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, but I'm in the hands of Mr. Hicks, and his internet and 4G connection is rather intermittent. And I'm sorry I can't do it myself, but I've only just mastered my iPhone, and without my secretary, I'm almost incommunicado.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so when do we do the representation of people that have got objections, Charlotte?
Well, if the applicant and the members don't have any questions to ask the licensing team, we can move on to the objector. So if the objector would like to like to sort of speak and then be questioned by the licensing team.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So so who do we have here that's an objector? Is Jessica Woods an objector?
Yes.
Okay, would Jessica like to put her objection forward, please?
Oh. Mrs. Woods, it would appear that you've muted your microphone. I believe that when you're dialing in, if you press 6, it'll unmute your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear you?
Oh, thank you. I've been in terrible trouble with the mic, so I've gone onto my phone now. So just listening to Mr. Hicks, solicitor, am I right in hearing that you are saying, Mr. Hicks, that you're not having any tables and chairs on the piazza for this particular venue?
No, we will be.
Not for this venue.
Not for this venue, but for next door.
For what do you mean next door? The what? The one that you're having a license for now? Because I thought he said he wasn't going to have tables and chairs. If I'm mistaken, that
We're talking.
you're going to have them for Woody's and the new venue. Is that correct?
No, just for Woody's.
Okay, so just as it is now, you are not having any extra tables and chairs outside for the new venue. It's just as it is at the moment.
Correct.
Okay, can I ask you how many tables and chairs you are licensed to have outside for Woody's, please? Or is that another question for another time?
Well, how many do you actually have?
In the region of 20.
Do you have a license for the 20, Mr. Hicks?
I do.
You do have a license from KCC to have that amount of tables and chairs?
I do indeed, yes.
Okay, do you have a license to keep them, store them on the piazza, Mr. Hicks?
Under my license, I'm permitted to put the tables and chairs onto the piazza, the same as anybody else on the piazza. It's on my license.
Yeah, because I know you need a license to keep the tables and chairs. I thought that under the licensing committee of the licensing regulations to keep your tables and chairs, that they had to be removed. They couldn't stay there permanently.
What we went for is when we originally had that license, we had to bring the tables and chairs in. We later went through when the licensing officer was Mr. Benstead, and we asked if we could do the same as other people and keep our tables and chairs outside, provided we kept them secure, which we did.
Mr. Hicks.
Okay, so when you asked,
Excuse me. Sorry. Can you just bear with us for a sec?
Sure.
Chairman, I think Penny Button, as the head of Safer Neighbourhoods, would like to come in at this point, please.
Okay, Penny?
Sorry, just Chair, it's just we are here only to talk about the application for a new premises licence at 15 The Parade, not to talk about Woodies.
Oh,
No,
okay.
Thank
you, Penny. Okay, is there any...
That's fine then. My concern was obviously having more tables and chairs out, because I live right on the piazza, and it is a terrible noise. The tables and chairs going in and out in the morning, being put out and taken back up and put in the pile on the piazza. But they're not adding the tables and chairs to the new venue, so I've got no complaint or objection about it, because that's what my objection was about.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Has have the licensing committee got any questions following up from that of the applicant?
No questions, thank you.
No, Mr. Dillon answered all mine.
I've got one question. So sorry, can I, because Milo's actually did have tables and chairs outside. This one's not going to have any tables and chairs, is that right?
Well, I understand that Mr. Brown, because of certain objections that had come in, he was worried about the noise. I mean, we would favour to have tables and chairs outside. You know, I mean, I know we're not here to talk about the licence next door, but we're talking about responsibility. I've been operating a business here for 5 years. I'm not going to do anything different. We're not going to have loud music or...
Sorry, this isn't about your responsibility. It is about your responsibility, Mr. Hicks, but it's also, you cannot be fully responsible for your customers when they are drinking alcohol and getting drunk. You can't be fully responsible for that. And when I'm in bed and I'm hearing terrible fights and arguments, given the recent events, especially on the steps, with the violence and the noise and the throwing of chairs continually, and it's not like just somebody digging a hole up outside your house for 5 minutes or an hour a day or for 2 weeks. This is for maybe 6 months, 4 months of the year, every night in the summer. And then it's the tables and chairs being put away. So if you are saying you're going for tables and chairs, then I'm going to come back with an objection to that.
Can I clarify this position? As a result of Mr. Brown's intervention, there will be no additional tables and chairs from number 15 onto the piazza. The only tables and chairs that Mr. Hicks is associated with are those for which he's already permitted for number 16. Does that clarify the position?
So could you just clarify, please? Because if Mr. Hicks is putting tables and chairs outside Woodies, I'm sure that then those tables and chairs will then take more space outside the new property. Is that correct, Mr. Hicks? Are you increasing your amount of tables and chairs outside of Old Milo's, the new property, because you're working under the licence of Woodies?
What I'm saying here is I would like to, but we've conceded that because of Mr. Brown's concerns.
That's wonderful. So how many tables and chairs did you have outside Woodies last year when you're operational?
We're not here to talk about...
no, we're not here to talk about Woodies, but my concern as living here as a resident and the excess noise is that what's going to happen is the 10 tables, not even, I don't even think you had 10 tables outside of Woodies, but I guess it comes down to what you're licensed to, will then extend seep into the area outside the new venue too. I hope I'm making that clear and I'm making sense.
I think this is a separate issue though. I mean, like, we're here to talk about the licensing of Milo's, and if this is a situation where there's not going to be any tables and chairs attached to the Milo's license, that's what we have to stick to.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. It's just the noise of the tables and chairs. Yes, absolutely. But if they get a license to sell alcohol, how are they going to stop people coming out of their venue, the new venue, and then sitting on the tables and chairs outside Woodies.
Well, maybe now would be a time for environmental health to speak here, and then if you'd like to question, if they'd like to then be questioned by the licensing team and by the members.
Thank you. If somebody could answer that question, I'd appreciate it.
If environmental health would unmute their microphone, please.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. Because we'd agreed with the applicant prior, normally we wouldn't attend, but given that there were objectors, we usually attend just to ensure that the minimum that we'd agreed with the applicant is still met. So I've got a short statement. My name is Christopher Brown. I'm Environmental Protection Officer of Thanet District Council. On the 6th of 2nd, 2020, Environmental Health asked to comment on a premises licence application for 15 The Parade Margate. On the application, I was not overly concerned with the times given. They are similar to nearby premises in the area. We were, however, concerned by the addition of off sales and a description within the resubmitted application of the 12th of the 2nd. Described within the section for the prevention of public nuisance, the applicant had indicated they wished to licence the piazza area directly in front of the premises. This is something the Environmental Health would object to, as due to the changes inferred by the Live Music Act, this would allow music to be played externally between 8 and 11 without adequate control. It would also allow drinking until the terminal hour of 01:30 AM. Given the premises are surrounded by residential dwellings, we would object to the application in its original form. Following consultation with the applicant through their agent, we agreed changes to the application and 2 further conditions. These are outlined in the report in section 2.2 and have been repeated during this meeting. In effect, this will prevent external music and will bring the licensable activity inside the premises from 22:30 onwards and sealed container off sales. I know the public objection made on the 5th of March 2020. I would hope the conditions and changes we agreed with the applicant would allay any fears of the public objector. However, they may wish the subcommittee to move further. I have therefore amended the hearing to outline our comments to ensure that our reasonable conditions are understood by the subcommittee. For the objectors about a complaint nuisance, we would look at tables that were within the boundary of the premise itself on the piazza. So if you had a line from each premises going out, any tables outside Woodies would probably be part of any complaints about Woodies. Any tables outside the adjoining new premises would be about that premises. In terms of tables, most of the premises in the surrounding area have some form of tables allowed on the floor, and we certainly wouldn't look to control those unless there was justified nuisance complaint. And I believe the 22-hour termination time is more than reasonable. If we receive complaints, we could look to take a review and take that back even further. And I'm open to comments from the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. So Charlotte.
Yes. So does the licensing team have any questions for Christopher?
Does the licensing committee have questions for Christopher? Councillor Schwab? Nothing? Councillor Rogers? Nothing. Is everyone happy with that?
I'm not happy. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Okay, so okay. So Charlotte, what's the next step on this?
Well, if
hello,
if
hold, 1 second.
Can anyone hear me?
1 second. 1 minute, Miss Woods. The officer Charlotte speaking.
Well, so if no one has any questions for environmental health, I suppose we move on to the final presentation. So if you'd like to have a final presentation, Miss Woods, and then we'll move on, then environmental health, and then the licensing team if they've got anything else to say, and then finally from the applicant. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so if you'd like to say what you've got to say, Jessica Woods. Jessica, can you unmute your microphone?
Jessica, can you unmute your microphone, please?
Anyone hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Hello. Thank you. Sorry, I'm having really bad trouble with this mic. I'm sorry if I've interrupted anybody. And I didn't quite get everything that the gentleman environmental health said, because it was a really bad line. All I really want to know is, because it seems very unclear to me, in my head, there are tables and chairs outside Woodies. Those tables and chairs, environmental health officer, are they going to stay directly outside Woodies?
Can I assist by saying there will be no change in the layout of the tables and chairs associated with Woodies, so as to so-called sneak into any other area. That is
Okay,
not.
so the area outside the new premises will be clear of tables and chairs. Is that correct?
Well, we're not in control of that, because Charlie's can use it, Woodies can use their existing area, but we will not be putting any tables and chairs or increasing the number of tables and chairs currently outside Woodies in any way associated with this premises. Okay?
Well, then, can you explain to me, Mr. Environmental Officer, Mr. Hudson, sorry, how are you going to ensure that people aren't customers of the new venue aren't going to purchase alcoholic drinks or any kind of drinks and sit in outside Woodies tables and chairs?
I don't see the relevance in that.
Because at night and in the morning at 7:30, when they put their tables and chairs out, there is going to be more places for people to sit and sit at a table. So there's going to be more customers sitting outside.
If the tables and chairs are going to be the same at Woodies, outside Woodies, then there's going to be no change.
No, okay, I hear what you're saying, but because I live where I see it differently, that's fine. I know it doesn't inflict on the licence for Woodies now, but I will speak to the environmental officer should any nuisance or occurrence turn up, and KCC for the amount of tables and chairs that are out there. But obviously it doesn't inflict on his licence now. I hear that, and I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, does the environmental, does Mr. Brown want to sum up or say anything?
I think I pretty much covered everything in our submission. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, does the applicant want to sum up and say anything?
No, I think we've covered everything, and we've heard what the objector said. We've worked this out with Mr. Brown, and we feel it's a workable solution. And we will pay attention to what the objector says, although I think the second objector hasn't actually appeared verbally. But I think we've said everything that needs to be said, and I will simply invite the committee to grant the application with the conditions as suggested by Mr. Brown, and we will ensure that we do not cause any disturbance to adjoining occupiers. And we are now aware of the identity of the lady. If she has any problems, comes and speaks to Mr. Hicks, I'm sure he will be happy to deal with them. So
Sorry, Sam, I've got one more question. Sorry, it's just a risen.
Well, better ask it then, hadn't you?
Okay, just in the application that I'm reading, and I might be reading it wrong, so please excuse me if I am. 2.2, it says, all tables and chairs for any form or seating associated with these premises that are placed on the piazza shall be removed by 22:30 onwards.
Well, yes, but that was before Mr. Brown intervened and removed the licence from the piazza, which we had originally applied for. So that doesn't...
Right, wonderful, thank you. I haven't seen that bit was taken off until it's just come up in this conversation. So
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you for Mr. Hicks listening. Thank you for letting...
Thank you, Jessica. Does the licensing officer want to sum up on this?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Penny. Okay, so the subcommittee will now basically move off to a different room.
Councillor Brambridge, could you just check with the applicant whether they agree to the inclusion on the licence of all three of the conditions referred to in the report?
Okay, does the applicant agree to the conditions, the three conditions that are on the report?
Yes, the conditions proposed by Mr. Brown are agreed by us.
Excellent.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, so the subcommittee now will reconvene in another room, and we'll be back.
Can we ask how the process of notifying us that the decision will work? I mean, do we sit around and wait, or what?
Yes, Nicholas. Can we have a time on this? 15 minutes? 10 minutes?
Yeah. So to everybody participating in the meeting, the process now is that the three councillors, Ms. Crowley and Gavin Happy, the legal representative, will leave this meeting and join their own private meeting to deliberate as they would do in a normal physical scenario. What will happen now is I personally will stay on this call, and in 15 minutes from the point that we adjourn this meeting, I will then give an update to those people that are remaining in this call. So that is Mr. Hicks and Mr. Dillon, Ms. Woods, and the remaining licensing officers. And at that point, we will either say that the councillors have come to a decision, or that they need additional time, and we will give a updated time at that point. Does that make sense to everybody? Is that clear how that will work?
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Nicholas.
Does everyone agree 15 minutes is the suitable amount of time to deliberate?
That's fine. Yes, thank you, Charlotte.
Fine. Right, everybody, thank you for all rejoining us. We can resume the meeting now. I believe that the panel have made a decision, so I'll pass you back to the chairman.
Okay, thank you, Nick. The subcommittee's legal advisor will now read out a summary of the subcommittee's determination, and the written determination will be circulated to all parties within 5 working days of the hearing. So, Gavin, if you'd like to read out the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. This was an application for a new premises licence brought by Mr. Mark Hicks in respect to 15 The Parade, Margate. The applicant seeks a licence to allow the following licensable activities at the following times: late night refreshment, Monday to Sunday, 2300 to 0130 hours the following day, and 2300 to 0200 hours the following day on New Year's Eve. The supply of alcohol for consumption both on and off the premises, Monday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to 0100 hours the following day, and 10 a.m. to 0200 hours the following day on New Year's Eve. Business proposed is that of a bar and restaurant. The applicant currently holds an existing premises licence in respect of the premise located immediately next door at 16 The Parade. We've heard evidence from the applicant, the Licensing and Environmental Health Services, and from a local resident objecting to this application. This in addition to a second written objection. Having paid very careful attention to all of the evidence that has been placed before us, we are satisfied that this application, amended as it is not to include any part of the piazza, can be granted. The following conditions were agreed between the applicant and Environmental Health Service. 1, the licensed area shall only include the internal parts of the premises, and 2, from midnight onwards on each operational night, alcohol for off-sale provision shall only be provided in a sealed container. The amendment of the application to remove the piazza from the scope of the application has rendered the third condition agreed between the applicant and Environmental Health Service to be irrelevant. We consider that these 2 conditions, in all the circumstances, are appropriate, proportionate and necessary for the promotion of the licensing objectives, and we formally apply them to this premises licence. That's the decision of the subcommittee.
That's great. Thank you, Gavin. Okay, so that concludes the meeting for today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers then. Thank you.